Well, today we're going to look at object-based programming. And this will be the last topic we'll cover. Next week, I'll get online just to make sure that nobody has any tests or any assignments that need to be opened back up so you can submit them. So we're down to the end. So next week is last time turning any projects. I believe the tests are due on I'll have to look, but I think it's May 1st. We'll see. Okay. Let's see. Just so you know when exactly they're due. Yeah, May 1st. So week from today is when the two final tests are due. They're down here in this final assessments folder, and there is no final project. It's just these tests right here. So, like I say, I'll be getting online just to see if anybody's having any troubles for whatever reason. And then we'll see if we can get it straightened out. Okay, so this course is W3 Schools. I'm looking at JavaScript Classes right over here. Even if you don't use object-oriented technology in some form directly, you'll use it indirectly. For example, if you've worked with Unity, the framework is comprised of objects, of classes. If you've used Java, Java by its very nature is built upon classes. So you may not have realized that you're working much with objects based upon what I'll show you today, but a huge amount of what you've done already in programming is object-oriented programming. Okay, we have something called a class. This is like creating an object. Now here's an example, a car, and we've got a constructor, and then we're passing in brand, and then we say this dot car name is equal to brand. This creates a generic object called car, and then we'll have specific instances of car. For example, I have a Honda Accord at home, so that's a specific instance of this object or class. Down here, after I've created the class, then I can create a new instance of it saying my car is equal to new car Ford. The new is creating an instance of it, and the car here matches the class name, so matches that right there. And this is a parameter we're passing in that gets passed into brand, which then gets assigned to this car name. Okay, so if I come over here, you see over here we have in our script, we have our object. And within the object, you got the constructor. Let's see, I could have assuming I put it in the right place, I could have another class. Class movie. Constructor title. This dot title is equal to title. And close that and close this. So then down here, I create a new movie. My favorite movie equals new movie. Runaway train. And document dot get element by ID movie dot inner HTML equals to my favorite movie dot, oh, I can't type today, dot title. Oh, excuse me. I guess they're up here. PID equals what do I call it? Movie. That's not good. Let's see, my favorite movie. Maybe I'll change that title name. Oh, helps if I can spell constructor. There it goes. Now, you're not limited just to one parameter here. I can pass in year. And I can say this dot year is equal to year. Now this refers to the specific instance of that object, of that class. And this dot title is, I call it a class variable. It's called by different names in different technologies. But title and year are the ones for that. And these, of course, are parameters we're passing in. So when I create an instance of it, I could pass in, I don't know what year it was, 1989. And then, I could just concatenate it on there. My favorite movie dot year. And up here, PID equals to the date /P. And you get that. This dot here allows us to easily refer to the class variables. But that's creating an instance. Now notice it says the constructor method is called automatically when the object is initialized. Like down here, when I say new car, then that calls my constructor automatically. Now you can have methods. Like you have your constructor within your class, and you also have a method. This says present return I have this car name. And then you can call the method. Typically methods are identified by using parentheses there. When you're referring to the class variables, then you don't need the parentheses. Let me create an example of this. And I have to be honest, I haven't done that much with objects in JavaScript, so we'll see how this goes. Let's see. I'm going to create an object fraction. And constructor, I'll be passing in the numerator in the denominator. And this numerator This dot numerator is equal to numerator. This dot denominator is equal to denominator. Where the problem is how it brings things in as whatever data type it decides. That's the part that I'll probably struggle with. Okay, so down here then, fraction 1 is equal to new fraction, and 8, 12. And this I'll say, maybe I'll just call it F1. Why get wordy? F1 dot numerator, I think it's plus is a concatenation, and then F1 dot denominator. Okay, so it gives us 8/12. Instead of having it in that manner, let's say I want to print fraction. That's this method that we're talking about. So notice the only thing we have here is the name. That's going to be different than any other programming language you probably programmed in. So let's just say print. And down here, say document.get element by ID, and I'll create a place called answer. Inner HTML is equal to f1.numerator plus, actually not f1, this dot numerator plus slash plus this dot denominator. So then down here, instead of printing that, of course I need to have one called answer. Then instead of doing that, I'm just going to simply say f1.print. And doesn't change any. Okay. What's the benefit of this? Well, that means if I do a bunch of prints throughout, then it'll be handled automatically. Now, what I really want to do is I want to simplify the fraction, and I may have trouble getting this quite correct because I don't remember the syntax for a for loop in JavaScript. I'll have to Google it probably. Call it simplify. And let's see. N is equal to this dot numerator. D is equal to this dot denominator. For x, intx, we'll assume it's the same syntax as everything else. Numerator, continue while x is greater than, less than, greater than 1, x plus plus. And if, boy, I'm going to have to Google probably a couple things here. If n percent, I think that's the mod. The and, I think, is maybe just and. D percent x. this dot numerator is equal to this dot numerator divided by x. This dot denominator is equal to this dot denominator divided by x. Okay, so if I simplify that, f1 dot simplify, and then I do f1 dot print again. And doesn't like something because there must be an error somewhere. Okay, let's go look up what a for loop looks like in JavaScript. Yeah, I think I got that syntax right. Okay, so how about the booleans? Comparisons. Here it is. Why my eyes are going? I thought I saw an and. Conditions. I would have had better luck Googling it. Okay, let me go look. Sure looks right. And. Oh. So then like something. Besides an infinite loop. Minus. Okay, I'm going to copy this into Notepad. This operating blind is driving me crazy. There are times in programming where you have to do that. This is not one of them. Okay, so file, save, fraction.html. Google Chrome. And more tools, developer tools. Uncaught syntax, unexpected identifier. INT. It's not INT. I bet. Just I. Okay. Mixing it up with other languages. There we go. That's one issue. Might be others. Doesn't like that. Uncut reference error. It is not defined. That I didn't have to define it in JavaScript. X is not defined. Okay, well, it's come back with something now. It's not right, but it's come back with something. Okay, so alerts are probably better because it's just overwriting it. The last print is what's going into here. Um, let's see. Alert this dot numerator. Alert this dot denominator. Obviously, I'm not looking at the mod operator correctly. JavaScript mod operator. So maybe it shouldn't be equals. Oh. Two-thirds. That is interesting. Got 8/12s. I think when I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the previous answer to this and concatenate it on. Plus, and then BR plus doesn't like something there. Maybe it's on its own line. Oh, or I could program correctly. Two-thirds is correct because it hits 4. They're both divisible by 4. But then it's somewhere else. It's checking for divisibility by a number, and it's coming out true. Alert X. I keep putting these semicolons. You don't need them. They don't hurt anything in JavaScript, but okay, they're both divided by 4. Then they're both divided by 2. Okay, that makes no sense. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not thinking this right. X equals plus x is 4 gives me 2 and 3. X is equal to 2. Why are they divisible by 2? They should not be divisible by 2. Because I just did my division right here. Of course, maybe the issue here is these N and D. May not even need those, but they should be inside of the for loop. Okay, so refresh this. A12s and A12s. So now it's not working. Okay. That should be in there. This dot numerator and this dot denominator. X equals 4. Okay, there it's working. How strange. So it didn't appear like I used X and D very much except for my loop construct. I'll leave that there just in case since I got it working. Okay. Now, this shows you the development of one of these. There's the JS objects down here. We just talked about methods. Notice here, for this one, we got to create an object. That's not what I was wanting to show. And I had no clue where I was at. They got objects in a couple places. Well, one thing to notice here is that we can declare something so it's returned. guess I really don't have a too good of an example there besides this returning a name. So over here, that's our simplify. And I want to return a fraction. So I'm trying to remember how to do that. So return frac. Let's try that. And I want to return probably need to have a new here. Return equals, I'm just doing this new fraction here. New fraction, this dot numerator, this dot denominator. And then I'm return. This may seem weird. Okay, so I'm going to have f2 is equal to new fraction 6/12. And f2 dot print that. And the question becomes if I can say f2 is equal to f1 dot return, what do I call it? Return frac. And f2 dot print. Don't ask me why I'm putting the semicolons. I'll get there eventually. There it is. Guess I need to get rid of that. Doesn't like something there. Return is not defined. Why may I say new fraction? Okay, no errors. And look what it returned, 2/3. Okay. What I was trying to demonstrate is you don't have to just return just a single item. You can return an object. How's this benefit us? Well, let's say I want to add fractions together. I think I got time for this. Add. Now I'm going to pass in two fractions. P1 for my first fraction, P2 for my second fraction. It's too early in the morning. 2/3 plus 1/5. Let's see, I can take 2 times 5 plus 1 times 3 over 3 times 5. Which means I'm going to have parentheses around the top. The 2 is my numerator off my first fraction. So P1 dot numerator times my 5. What's my 5? 5 is my denominator of my second fraction. P2 times denominator plus 1 is my numerator of my second fraction, p2 dot numerator, times 3, which is my denominator of my first fraction, p1 dot denominator, divided by, and I think the two denominators multiply together. Okay, so p1 dot denominator times p2 dot denominator. Okay, so return, and return equals to new fraction. Okay, so let me think about this. The first part is my numerator, which would be this right here, comma. Then my denominator would be those two, I believe. And then I'll return it. Okay, so come down here. F3 is equal to new fraction. And I'll just have it 1 over 1 to begin with. Get rid of that. And I'm going to say F3 is equal to, I put that into F1. I think I can do F3 dot add F1 comma F2. F3 dot print. And I really need to have some kind of labels here. I'm not having trouble keeping track of what's what. So frac, I'll call that frac name. And I'm going to have frac name plus colon plus this numerator. Okay. So whenever I call print, I'll pass in the frac name, so I know what in the world's being printed. Need to get rid of those alerts. 8/12, 6/12, 2/3. And I didn't print F2 being simplified, so did I simplify F2? F2 dot simplify, F2 dot print. Okay, simplifies 2/3 and 1/2. 2/3 plus 1/2. 2/3 plus 1/2. Get a common denominator, which would be 6. That's 4 over 6 plus 3 over 6, which is 7 over 6. Okay, so that shows adding them together. Now, the idea would be on this is that after I add them, I'd want to make sure I simplified it. So F3 dot simplify. Okay. So now if I want to do subtract. Subtract is very similar to this. Don't get hung up on the math. If you're into math, you may be enjoying this. If you hate math, you probably are hating this part. But okay, so the difference here is this is a minus. So if I come down here, I'm not sure how it'll handle negatives. We'll see. Okay, I printed F3, so I guess I can wipe F3 out. F3 dot subtract F1 and F2. Not sure which one's greater. And then I want to simplify it. F3 dot simplify. And then F3 print F3. Okay, come over here, refresh that. I should get rid of those alerts. One six. 4 6 minus 3 6 is 1 6. Okay, so my subtracting is working. Okay. Let me instead of talking about getting rid of those alerts, let me actually do it. Multiply. Let's see, multiply two together, and it's going to return a fraction. Now to multiply them, for my numerator, I just multiply the numerator of 1, the first fraction, times the numerator of the second fraction. My denominator is multiplying two denominators together. It's real easy. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and do my divide. And let's see, I take my numerator of, because I flipped my second fraction. So I take my numerator of my first fraction times my denominator, the second fraction. This one I take my denominator times the numerator of the second fraction. Okay, so I come down here. There's our simplify, or add, there's our subtract. F3 is equal to F3 dot multiply. I'm multiplying F1 times F2 together and putting that into F3. I always need to simplify. And then print F3. Then to divide. F3 is equal to F3 dot divide. F1 divided by F2. F3 dot simplify. F3 print F3. Refresh that. Be nice if I put some kind of what was happening there. It's nice. 1/3. Is that right? Let's see. 2/3 times 1/2 equals 2/6, which is 1/3. That's correct. Okay, divide. 2/3, and I flip my second fraction, so it becomes 2/1. That gives us 4/3, which is 4/3. Okay. So that shows you how you can use objects. Now, the idea here wasn't that I wanted to go into the math. I didn't even mention the math very much, did I? This just shows you that you can, through object-oriented technology, develop these objects with their appropriate methods, class variables, that you can then program one time and then you can use over and over. So if I want to work something bigger, 8 over 1240, like that. Handles it automatically. I put a front end on this where I ask the the end user for the numerator and denominator of both fractions, and then I could have buttons there for add and subtract. I could do all kinds of things. Power of objects in terms of mathematical programming is fantastic. In terms of game development, it's also fantastic. Some other areas you may use it in like the background with Unity or Visual Studio, but sometimes it's hard. If somebody said, "Well, I want you to create an object-oriented program for my area." Oftentimes, it takes a redesign from the very top level to get it to work correctly. We were asked to create an object-oriented program for HR, and we had a lot of trouble coming up with how could we just put one program in that's object oriented that's meaningful. I mean, you can always put something into place. Now there won't be any project on this, won't be any test on this. I just wanted to introduce the concept of objects, and I love math, so that's why I chose a fraction example. Hopefully you didn't find that too painful. Um, but that's how you can create objects with their methods. I'll go ahead and stop there, and I hope you have a good weekend. And I'll be online again next Friday, but I won't be covering any material. I'll just be making sure if somebody needs something open, that I can go ahead and get it opened up right then.